up with is you have a new book coming up, which I think will come very handy to our new government, which has been quite a lot of interested in increasing our public debt. Could you tell more about your new book that you're a co-author of, and what is it about?
The new book, which will come out in January, Lexington Press, and you have my chapter, and you have, I think, the index. But the debt and leverage are something that you should be very careful about. And I think the currency board discipline and the low debt to GDP ratios has been a very healthy thing for Bulgaria. And if you look, what country has the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the EU? Estonia. And that's where we put a currency board in 1992. And they're very disciplined in Estonia. It just gives you a lot more flexibility. And also this idea, this gets into corruption, by the way. This is Bulgaria. Corruption is the main problem. Political corruption is the main problem. Any Bulgarian knows this. I've never talked to a Bulgarian who isn't aware of this. And if you have more debt, you will have more corruption, because you're going to have more government spending, more loose spending, and less discipline on the politicians. The only way to mitigate corruption and keep it slightly under control in Bulgaria, to keep it from exploding into a terrible problem, much worse than now, you have to keep politicians in Bulgaria in straitjackets. And the only way you can keep them in a straitjacket is, one, with a currency board, that's the institution, and two, that keeps the deficit under control, because they where are you going to get the money? You'd have to go to the bond market to get the money. So the only way to control politicians and to keep them halfway honest in Bulgaria is to keep fiscal discipline. And that's the main message, by the way, in this book. The main message in the book is to keep fiscal discipline, keep the politicians in some kind of orderly regime. And if you do that, you will eventually be in a position of letting the private sector flourish, letting productivity and prosperity flourish, and not having the government squeezing out the private sector. Because if you allow loose fiscal policy and building up of debt, what happens? That means it's financing government expenditures. That means the government squeezing the private sector out. And you need the private sector and innovation in some place like Bulgaria or Europe in general. It's a real problem.
Completely agree, Professor. Any last words or wisdom you want to share with